How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to show you a truck storage system that I built that I'm actually on a trip to Maine right now, where I'm kind of doing a testing and like a shakedown trip just to see how it's going to work out. I'm building this because I'm planning a road trip for 2 weeks to Utah to visit some national parks and a bunch of cool places. We're going to be camping out of the truck for the whole 2 weeks. So I wanted to have organized storage, a way of being able to easily get stuff in and out of the truck, and a way to really just kind of make my life a little easier during the trip. So what I built was a storage drawer here that fully extends about 6 feet out of the bed, and I'll show it to you in a second. And there's also a sliding tray that allows for larger things like my cooler, and I've got a big bin in there, and lets me pull that also out to get to it. I'm not going to take credit for this design. There was a gentleman who I saw build something very similar. I modified it to my truck and a few changes that I made for my needs, but I'll link his video if you want to see how he built his. And his was definitely more of a how-to, whereas this video is more of like a build log of kind of what I did while I was building this. I did explain some things, but don't expect this to be a a full step-by-step. But in any case, there's no rails or anything on this. This is just it is on some friction tape, so it has a little bit of resistance to pull it out, but it's not too bad, especially because I have it fully loaded, including cast iron skillets and a full camp kitchen. I've got it loaded up with the Cydio crates with organizers. So this is my Coleman stove. It sits on top of these two half-size Cydio crates, which is all of my kitchen and cooking stuff. So all my like egg rings and spatulas and measuring cups and all that kind of stuff in here, skillets and plates and cutlery in this one. Right now, for the purposes of this trip, since this is only just a weekend trip, we're loaded down with snacks and protein shakes, and actually still have a couple empty bins in the back. And then at the very back of this is a bunch of truck tools. I've got my bottle jack and some kind of emergency equipment. Over here on this side, there's a large space that runs along the length of the wheel well that's accessible when the drawer is open. So I've got stuff like my tool roll and jumper cables and a tire plug kit, kind of emergency stuff, towing straps, all that sort of thing. So all of that space is fully accessible. And then you can see this is fully extended out. This is, this is sticking out a good 6 feet from the back of the truck. It's very stable. If I push down on it, the cabinet will rise up a little bit, but it's hooked under the tie downs on the side of my bed. So it's not going anywhere. So that's the most you'll ever get out of it. And that's with maybe an inch coming out of the truck. But if you push it back even a foot or so, it's rock solid. Like if I push down on this, the truck's going to move, not the drawer. And I went ahead and just threw a lock on there, just a locking hasp that I can close if I need to. Over on this side, I also have another locking door that goes into that long wheel well space. So you can put, if you want to carry a rifle or something like that, you can put that in there and have that locked down. But this piece here, I think, is actually pretty interesting. Let me roll my tonneau cover up so you can see it a little bit better. So I've got my cooler here, and along the sides of this, I have some L-track. So we can put tie downs to keep things in place. So if I don't want the cooler to slide around, I don't have to worry about that. But then this whole piece is also a slider, which I had to move that tie down, but you can see it pulls everything in there forward. So you can have bins, you can have all kinds of stuff back there and easily get to them without having to climb up into the back of the truck. And then that slides back. Optionally, because of the way the L-track is sitting, you can take this whole slider out, flip it upside down, and it will sit on top of these and it will sit flush with this top surface. So you can have the full bed, like if you want to throw a mattress up there, if you have a camper cover or anything like that, that is an option as well. And then you can still store stuff underneath it. And lastly, I went and covered this with some Herculiner to make it a little more durable. All of that, is in the video I'm going to show you guys of how I built this. But so far, we've been using this the whole weekend. We're out here at a Hobbit House Airbnb in Maine, and we've been cooking out of here, eating out of here, storing all of our stuff. And so far, it's been working out fantastically. I think I'll have to figure out the final organization for how the bins are going to be. We're going to have a lot more stuff in here. We're going to have our full camping setup, tents and chairs and all that kind of stuff in here. But for right now, as a first test run, I'm pretty happy with it. Another thing that I did to the truck, and then I'm also going to show in a later video, is I took the back seats of my truck out and I built a storage platform with a wire wall in the back and storage places for all kinds of stuff underneath. But I'll show that in a different video later on. Anyway, I'll show you guys how I built this, and hopefully, you'll be inspired. Maybe you'll be able to, just like I was when I saw this other gentleman's video, and make one for yourself. All right, so before I get started actually building the drawer system back here, I got to do a couple cleanup tasks. So this is the first day it's actually been warm enough that I can go and spray out the bed of my truck. I've got a bunch of debris in there from a bunch of dump trips that I was doing in the fall. So I'm going to vacuum out the bed, go down, pressure wash it out, get it nice and clean. The next thing I need to do is caulk a bunch of gaps around the edges of the bed. Now I do have a factory spray-in bed liner, but where some of the side panels and the bottom of the bed meet, there are some gaps, and I've noticed that road spray kind of does get up in there from time to time, and I want to avoid that. So I've got a heavy-duty like silicone, black silicone that I can go in and fill all of those gaps in. Now last year I did seal the tailgate of my truck, so I have a I guess a rock guard. It's a big rubber strip that covers the hinge gap on the tailgate to keep like if you transport gravel or sand or anything like that, it keeps it from falling down into the hinge when the gate is open. And I also have a rubber weather seal on both sides. It does okay. It's not perfect, but it's way better than it was before with nothing. I do have another roll. I might add some more. We'll see how this goes. I do have a tonneau cover, obviously, and it's pretty well sealed. It could probably use a little bit of adjustment, I think, towards the back, but I'll deal with that in a little bit. You can see all the gaps. Here you can see the gaps between the panels. So this next piece is going to be the base of the driver's side cabinet, and it needs to conform to the shape of the side of the truck bed. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is place it right up against the wheel well and scribe a line following the contour of the bed so that when I cut that out, it will match perfectly in here. Now, I have an actual tool for this. Unfortunately, it's not long enough for the depth that I need here, so I kind of made this one out of some scrap wood. And of course, there's stuff in my way already, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. The key is to keep this completely 90 degrees as close as possible. Now, I built a little bit of margin of error in here. I'm going to smooth this out. It doesn't have to be precise, but I want it to be pretty good. All right, so it took some time and a lot of fiddling with the sander to get it close, mostly on the corners, the inside corners here around the wheel well. Those bindings. The important part, these gaps, they don't really matter, but the important part, the things that I've measured off of, is the back needs to be flush, and it needs to be square to the back of the cab. And this line here, the distance from the end of this piece to the wheel well is a fixed number. Everything else doesn't really matter. As long as those two match up and it's square, should be good to go. I'm going to save myself a little bit of trouble since the other side is the same. I'm going to take this piece that I just carved out, I'm going to flip it over, and the piece that goes on this side, I'm going to use that to trace the same line and cut it out. And I'll actually probably just I'll use a flush cut bit with a router, and that'll be a lot easier. What I've done here is I laid the two bottom plate pieces for both sides on top of each other, and I used a router with a flush trim bit to trim the other piece. I flipped them over so that their top sides are both facing in towards each other, so that way they're kind of like a book. They open up like a book. And I trimmed it to match, so this should be exactly the same on the other side. What I have to do now is trim, because I left this board a little bit longer on purpose in case I needed to, in case I overcut and I needed to make some adjustments. So I just need to rip about an inch or so off this board in order to get it to the correct dimensions, and then it should be able to go in the truck and get test fitted. All right, what's up, guys? So I last night got the two bottom pieces of the base that gets contoured to the edges of the truck done. I didn't film all of it because it was just kind of in a hurry because it was dark. It was just about to rain, and I didn't want the wood getting wet until I sealed it. Which brings me to what I'm doing today. Is before I go any further, I want to water seal some of these pieces, especially anything that's going to be in contact with the bottom of the truck. My tonneau cover does a decent job, but water does still get in through the corners, little drips and stuff. When you roll it open, water drips off. So I don't want the wood going in there unsealed. So I've got a gallon jug of clear Thompson's water seal. It has to go on above 50 degrees, which it's directly at 50 right now in the garage. So I'm going to get that applied and let these dry while I work on the next pieces. So here is the current state of things. I did all of the weather sealing, the waterproofing, on all the remaining pieces that needed to be assembled. So this is the driver's side cabinet that's actually going to hold the drawer over there. So once I got everything sealed, which I did it the quick way, I treated it more like just a regular penetrating oil. I spread it on, I wiped it, I let it sit in for a little bit, and then I wiped down the excess and let it dry. I'm just trying to get it done fairly quickly. I'm going to go back later, probably in another month or so, and add more coats to it. It's a little cold for it. The stuff is kind of has a jelly consistency, and it's meant to be applied when the temperature is going to be above 50 degrees for 48 hours, which it's not going to be. So I just wanted some level of waterproofing in there for now. But what I've done is I went and I added pocket holes to these side pieces, and I clamped them up, glued them, and dropped them in, screwed the pocket holes in. These pieces here are a sort of guide rail that will prevent the drawer from tipping up. So there's about a 1/4 inch gap between the top of the drawer and the bottom of these rails when the drawer is inside there. So that will keep it from tipping out when it's at or near full extension. Another thing I'm going to do to help this slide, because that drawer is pretty heavy and obviously it's going to get very heavy once stuff is inside of it, is I have ultra high molecular weight tape. It's sort of like that Teflon tape you see in the bottom of like a computer mouse to help it slide around. It's super dense, very strong, and super slippery. So I have a roll of 1/2 inch and a roll of 3 inch. So I'm going to put 2 strips of the 3 inch down here on the bottom, which is, where the bulk of the weight of that drawer is going to be sitting. So when I pull on it, it should just slide right out. And I'm also going to put the 1/2 inch underneath here. So as we pull the drawer out, it's going to want to tip up and rub against this, and we don't want the plywood to, one, tear itself apart rubbing on this, but also we don't want the friction to lock that up. So we'll put the tape underneath there, and that way it'll slide nice and easy in and out like it was on tracks, but without actually having to add tracks. All right, back at it this morning. Right now I'm working on the slider, the pull-out part that's going to be on the passenger side, and I need to install this recessed spring-loaded handle. This is going to be what you're going to be able to grab to pull it out. Now it sits it's meant to sit sort of flush with the surface, so you have to recess it. So what I've got is I moved my router onto a plunge base, and I marked out a 3 inch by 5 inch area, which is just big enough to hold that. And I'm going to route that out to accept that, so that when I screw it in, it will sit flush with the surface. See how we did. Need just a tiny bit more. Oh, I see. There's some bumps. There's some raised areas on this. I think that's where the spring is inside. And I think, yeah. All right. All right, so that came out pretty good. Sits in there pretty flush. You can grab it, be able to pull it out, slide it back in. When it's in the flipped up top deck configuration, you'll be able to reach under and grab that handle to pull it out as well. I went ahead and applied a truck bed liner to the top surfaces. Now this is just the top coat. I am going to do a second coat, but I do have to drill through parts of this. So I want to do that before the second coat goes on. You can see this other piece over here. I went ahead and fitted this to the top of the cabinet side. I also put the drawer face on front. I'll show you that. I put a handle on that the same way I did the slider. What I'm working on right now is this is going to be the side, the passenger side that goes over the wheel well. So I just drilled out all the pocket holes for this, and I'm about to get this mounted up here. Because this is going to have that small top piece over there sticking out at a 90-degree angle with no real support under it, I am going to actually put support. So what I did was I cut 2 pieces of 2x4 here, and they're just going to stand like this in there just to provide some support, so this isn't just kind of free floating in midair. And that way, even though there shouldn't be much weight on it, if you do need to step down on it when you're climbing in, you can do that, and it should support the weight. Now, obviously, it's going to have the wheel well in the middle, and I'll make sure that there's some sort of spacer underneath that as well, so that it can rest the middle of its weight on top of the wheel well. And then the last thing I did, and I have to do it for this side as well, and I'll show that on camera. As you can see, or maybe you can see, there is on the side of that cabinet over there, there's a piece of L-track. That's going to be mounting points, but also the anchoring, the rail that the slider itself is going to sit on top of when it's in deck mode. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mounted up here, and we'll see how that looks. All right, clamped up here, I'm using these right angle clamps to align the vertical piece. You can see it runs right along the edge of the wheel well cut out. And that's just going to hold it in place while I screw the pocket holes in. Now this does have a little bit of flex, so I have to be careful to kind of hold them in place as I go and do each one. But otherwise, this should be good to go. I'm going to double check my measurement. I need this to be, from this face, I need it to be 27 inches out to that side to make room for the slider. So I'm going to double check that, and then I'm going to screw these in. So I got this mounted on here. I got my 2x4 braces in place. That's going to help support any load that goes on here. Not that there should be much. There's not really a lot of space, and this vertical piece here is supporting most of the weight. The wheel well is going to sit right in here and support the middle of this. And this is really just for the ends in case, I'm standing up here. And also to support the weight of the platform that kind of goes across the center. So next step is to get the L-track mounted on the inside of here. But as far as assembly goes, that's it for the build process. The only things I have to do now is get it into the back of the truck, I'm going to do that tomorrow during the day when it's a little warmer and I can see. Iron out any last minute fitment issues. I think when I had the big cabinet in there before, I think the Ford logo that's in the back of the bed was kind of interfering a little bit. So I might have to carve a little bit out just to make that fit perfectly. But once it's in place and that final test fit is done, really all that it remains at that point is just to go ahead and put the second coat of bed liner on. All right, guys, welcome back. It's a few days later. I've had not so great weather. It's been really cold. It was snowing a little bit, raining a little bit, which didn't really work out for the kind of things I needed to finish. I needed to get this in and out of the truck to get final touches done. I finally got that done. I put the final coat of the Herculiner on here. Added a few little final touches, put a door covering one of the access areas. I'll show you that in a little bit. So yeah, it's completely finished. It's ready to be assembled in the bed of the truck. I've already done that about 20 times so far during my test fitting. I had it in and out of there. And one of the great things about this whole setup is actually how fast it goes together. I can probably get it all set in the truck from here in the garage into completely in place in under 5 minutes, maybe even less. Really, it's only 4 distinct pieces. And the way they interlock together, you don't have to secure it, you don't have to screw it down or do anything, and it will stay in place completely because of the way they kind of fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. So the way I actually put this together, the first piece that goes in is this passenger side cabinet and slider piece. So this goes in, gets pushed up against the bed of the truck. Because of the way it's shaped to the side of the truck, it locks in place. It's got a short amount of clearance on the bottom, so it really can't move in there more than, I would say both of these pieces actually probably have about maybe a 1/16 of an inch that they, that they can move and wiggle in place, which is really great. So this piece goes in first, gets tucked inside, kind of clicks into place. Once it's in, the larger drawer piece goes in, kind of slides over this to give it room to fit in. And then once it's lined up, I just push it straight towards the side. It will drop down the 1/2 inch so that it's flush with the bottom of this piece. And the two of them hold each other from moving side to side. Again, about a 1/16 of an inch gap possible between them if you tried to push them apart. And of course, because of the way they're locked into the side of the bed, they don't move forwards and backwards either. Once that's done, you just slide the drawer in to the cabinet and slide the slider piece through here, and that's it. You're done. So I'm going to show you guys that. I apologize in advance. It's incredibly windy outside today. I've already had multiple branches and limbs fall down in the yard. Hopefully I won't get hit by anything while I'm out there. So if there's a lot of wind noise in the audio, that's why. Let's not put this in backwards. All right, so that piece is obviously, it's not too heavy, it's just a little awkward, the sizing. I don't have a lot of room to play with over here. So once it's in, really all you do is just push it back. And slide it over. And it basically fits it into place. I'm gonna go up and make sure it's pushed all the way in. There we go. Beautiful. All right, it's all the way in. The next piece is the one you guys are sitting on right now. So I'm gonna put you up here. One thing you'll notice is I had to route out, and you may not, here, let me put this over here. So if you take a look down here, I had to route this gap out. And the reason for that is on the back of my truck bed, in the bed liner, is a big Ford oval, the big logo. And it sticks out, I don't know, about 3/4 of an inch out from the back of the bed. And it was causing problems with this fitting flush to the back. So I had to route out a gap for it to kind of sit in. And once I did that, I could get it straight back and it worked out properly. This is by far the biggest, most awkward, heaviest piece. I want to say total, this might be 160 pounds. I'd have to, actually I would like to weigh it, but getting this in, you know, if it's not up on something already is kind of a pain if you're doing it by yourself. But if you've got it up on a rolling cart or a sawhorse like I have here, it's pretty straightforward just to slide it on to the bed. Okay. All right, so you can see once I have it up here and it's just kind of sitting on top of the other piece, all that's really left is just to push it into the kind of its place, and it all fits together like a puzzle piece. I have to, this wire loom is for my bed lights. I need to get it reattached. But essentially, just push it over. And it should kind of just click right into place. And you can see it's dropped down and fit next to that. And there's about a 1/16 of an inch gap between the two of these. So that's really all there is to actually installing it in here. Now the next piece is just sticking the drawer in and sticking the slider piece in, which I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Now for the drawer. And it's in. All right, folks. Here's the final product. So as you can see, I've got my handle hardware for the drawer, for the slider. I wanted to cover up the gap that was over here, and I had a hinge and I had a cabinet lock, so I figured I might as well, you know, give myself a somewhat secure place. I mean, obviously you can, you know, somebody's already in here, which, you know, but it's a little bit of extra security. It might as well, and it holds it shut. So you just turn it, pops it open, gives you access to that kind of long, deep space. Good for, I don't know, any kind of things you want to keep a little bit more secure, just, you know, while you're walking away from it. And you can see here the slider piece. So we've got our L track along the sides with these hooks, so you can stretch bungee cords and everything across it to hold things in place, keep them from sliding around on here. And like, so I'm going to keep my cooler. I'm going to keep a couple large totes in here with stuff like camping chairs and that kind of thing. And when I want to get to all of that, instead of having to climb into the truck, I can just grab this, slide it forward, reach whatever I need to, and when I'm done, just slide it back. That rubbing noise is actually this door, and I need to make a little bit more clearance here. So I'm going to take that off and do that in a little bit. But really, you know, the main feature of this guy is the drawer. Let me get this sawhorse out of the way. Now, it slides super easy, and it comes out, I mean, you can come out to with about an inch of the end of the drawer. Actually, we can go even further than that. Not that you really need to, because you can access this rear drawer space with it still in about a foot. But for whatever reason, if you needed to, and you can see, you know, it is completely being supported by the tailgate of the truck and the weight of the cabinet itself. Now, when it's out at this full extension, if I push down on the drawer, I can get that cabinet to lift up about an inch, but it won't go any further than that because of the way it's locked under the cargo hooks in the bed of the truck. They stop it from going up any further. Now, if I push this back about a foot or so, at that point, the weight is completely supported by the tailgate, and I can put my entire weight on the end of this drawer, and the cabinet will not move. The truck will move. It'll start to bounce on its suspension, but so here, the cabinet is 100% solid when I do that. It's not going anywhere. Let me show you what that looks like. So I can put a lot of weight on this, and it's bouncing the truck. It's not moving the drawer itself. So once this is fully loaded with everything that I'm going to put in it, the Cydio crates and everything, I'm 100% confident of the stability and security of this drawer. Hell, I could probably stand in it. It's that secure. And yeah, it still slides super easy back in. And you'll notice that when I pull this out, you also have access to that space over there. And now, just for the fun of it, I may go ahead and put another one of those keys in here just for the fun of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing loaded up with crates and see what it looks like. Out she comes. A little further. Boom. And then this rear space is going to be tools and jack for my truck and a few things like that. So I've got 3 of the full-size Cydio crates with various different dividers. I haven't figured out exactly what's going in each one of these yet. And then I had 2 of the half-size crates, also with dividers. So this stuff is going to be a lot of my cooking utensils and things like that. And the reason I got these 2 front ones as half-size is this is actually where my camp stove, I have a 2-burner portable grill, is going to be stored. So I probably won't use it here because I want access to the stuff underneath, but at least when it's, you know, when everything's packed away, it'll sit right here and it'll just shut up nicely in there with the rest of that stuff. So when it's time to throw down some burgers, just take that, set it off. I'll probably have like a little portable table, or I can sit it right on the tailgate there. And then we'll have access to all of our utensils, spatulas, cooking oil, all that kind of stuff that'll be organized in these trays. So I'm super, super happy with how this came out. And also another thing, I knew going into this, I wanted this, for the stability of this drawer system, I wanted the drawer box to be fairly deep, and I knew it was going to be deeper than the height of these crates. And figuring that might cause a little problem of getting them in and out. I did, when I placed the spacer here, I gave it an extra inch of room so that these could move around a little bit and I can kind of get my fingers in there. Now, I knew that was going to make it a little more difficult to get these in and out, but I can't do it with one hand. But if I set this down, it's not too bad. And what I may end up doing is I may put like a little rope handle or tug or something on there so that I can pull them out a little easier. I knew going into it that was going to be an issue, and I decided I would deal with it. I would rather have this cabinet box, the drawer box rather, be much more stable and secure, because I didn't want it to be flimsy. I wanted it to be very durable. So it's worth that. In the worst case, you know, I can always get some bigger ones and put these someplace else. The last thing, I actually haven't tried it yet. I don't know if there's more tweaking to do to get this to work, is the slider piece is designed to flip over and sit on top of these L-track pieces to create a complete bed or complete flat top. I don't think I'm going to use that too often, but it is there if I need it. More likely, if I need the full bed surface, I'm probably just going to take this whole thing out because of how quick it comes in and out. I mean, it actually, you saw how fast it goes in. It comes out even faster. So less than 3 minutes to get it out entirely. So if I really need to put something big in here, I'll probably just do that. But let's give that a shot and see how that looks. All right, so there you go. That's actually not that bad. I have to take the hooks off the L-track in order for it to slide in and out, because right now the lip gets caught on those. But this does pull forward, so it will slide out that way. And you can see, I mean, it fits really, really perfectly. You can also see I got some footprints up there because I was just standing around, I was just walking around on top of there. So it is super solid. I'm by no means a lightweight guy. I've lost a lot of weight, but I'm still about 275 pounds. It didn't flex, it didn't bow, it didn't budge with me standing up there on it. Even on this piece, I mean, this is 3/4 inch maple. It's not lightweight wood, so I'm fairly confident in it. The next things, so a couple more things I am going to do, little tweaks here. I got some of those rubber, like shovel holder, gear holder things, and I'm going to stick a couple of those along here because I want to be able to have my axe and some, maybe a shovel and some things like that. I'm just kind of strapped in there that I can grab quick if we need to chop up firewood or clear a fallen branch or anything along those lines. The other thing that's nice too is you can see we've still got a decent amount of space between the top of this and my tonneau cover. So if I Go ahead and roll this up. And that's not terrible. That's a decent amount of space. I can throw a lot of stuff up there. And I do have bed lights under here, so you can see what's up there. All right, guys, so there you have it. It's done. I'm going to give it its first real shakedown trip in about a week and a half or so. Devin and I are heading up to Maine for the weekend. So we'll definitely be able to put it through its paces, see what I like and don't like about it. Hopefully I like everything about it and don't have to make any more changes. But, you know, things are always flexible. We'll see. And then next steps is going to be removing the back seats of my truck, because I want to do a more custom storage back there that, again, is modular, can swap in and out really quickly, but give me more space for all my camera gear, my drones, and that kind of stuff that I want to keep a little bit more secure in the cab of the truck. Yeah, so join me for that one. See you in part 2.